Welcome to an election edition of MASSP's Legislative Update webcast series. In this presentation, we are going to focus on the upcoming November general election, what's at stake overall, and talk about what the implications might be for educators. My name is Bob Kefchin, and I am MASSP's Director of Government Relations. If you have any questions about the topics covered in today's presentation or anything else state politics related, please feel free to call, text, or email me. Please note that this screencast is intended as an MASSP member service only. Before sharing any information with voters, districts should ensure that information has been reviewed by an attorney, as schools are required by law to provide factual information only. That said, it is our intent to inform you, not influence your vote. MASSP does not endorse candidates and does not have any position on the statewide ballot proposals. Simply put, this election is a big deal. It could affect the direction of state government for at least the next decade. The amount of turnover we will have going into next year is staggering. All 4 executive offices, at least 74% of the Senate, and at least 41% of the House will have new nameplates on the doors. And these numbers could grow if any incumbents lose re-election. Also on the ballot this year are 2 State Board of Education seats. With the State Board of Education currently split 4-4 Democratic and Republican, that means control of the State Board is up for grabs this cycle. So beyond the House, Senate, and State Board, what else will you be voting on? The gubernatorial contest between Gretchen Whitmer and Bill Schuette will top everyone's ballot this year. But the Secretary of State and Attorney General elections are getting equally heated this cycle. Debbie Stabenow is facing a vocal challenger for U.S. Senate and Trumpian Republican John James. Even the MSU Board of Trustees election is in the spotlight this year in the wake of the Nassar sex abuse scandal. One thing you won't see on your November ballot is a straight party voting option. The Michigan legislature did away with that option for this election. Voters statewide will also have to decide on 3 high-profile ballot proposals. I'm going to walk through each one briefly and hit some key highlights. I've provided links to more detailed information for each, including an analysis of each by the Nonpartisan Citizens Research Council. Please note that there is no organized opposition campaign for any of the proposals, so I didn't intentionally leave off those links. They simply don't exist. Proposal 1, championed by the group named the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol, would legalize marijuana in state law and create a regulatory structure including retailer licensure, taxation, and possession limits. It would levy a new 10% excise tax on marijuana sales and dedicate the revenue to implementation costs, clinical trials, schools, roads, and municipalities where marijuana businesses are located. Proposal 2, also known as Voters Not Politicians, aims to end gerrymandering by shifting the responsibility for redistricting from the state legislature and governor to a new 13-member commission. The new redistricting commission would be comprised of 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and 5 members with no party affiliation. The proposal would also establish new redistricting criteria and prohibit partisan office holders and candidates, their employees, certain relatives, and lobbyists from serving as commissioners. Proposal 3, backed by the Promote the Vote campaign, deals with voter rights. It would allow same-day voter registration, no reason absentee voting, and bring back straight ticket voting in Michigan. Under the proposal, voters would be automatically registered to vote when they update or renew their driver's license, unless they decline, and the proposal would require an audit of statewide election results. With so many decisions on this year's ballot, I am strongly urging everyone I talk to visit the Michigan Voter Information Center website, mi.gov/vote, and look up your ballot before you head to the polls. The Voter Information Center website is very easy to use, and I'll show you how it works. In your browser window, simply navigate to mi.gov/vote. Type in your first and last name, select your birth month, and type in your birth year and zip code. Then click Search. At the top of the next screen on the right-hand side, you will see a link to view your sample ballot. Click that link and you'll be able to see exactly what your ballot looks like. And there it is. In addition to looking up who and what I'm being asked to vote on, from this webpage I can also do some quick research. Clicking on a candidate's name will bring up a candidate's website if they have one registered with Secretary of State. Clicking on the $ next to a candidate's name will bring up the campaign finance disclosure information for that candidate. You will see a print icon in the top right corner of the page, which will generate a printer-friendly version of the document you are viewing here. I typically print a copy of my ballot to take with me into the voting booth, And I will again this year to help me keep things straight, since as you can see, my ballot is very long. You're allowed to take notes with you into the booth, or if you prefer, you can use your phone or similar device, provided you don't use the camera. November 6th, 2018. Polls open at 7 a.m. and remain open until 8 p.m. If you're in line by 8 p.m., you can still vote, even if it's after 8 p.m. by the time you get to the booth. So put it on your calendar. No, seriously, put it on your calendar. If you're watching this video, you're on a computer or your phone. Take 10 seconds and schedule yourself time at the polls. I'll wait. All finished? Excellent. Thank you in advance for keeping that appointment and voting. Why am I so adamant? Because there is so much at stake for education in this election, regardless of your political leanings. Every member of our state's lawmaking machine is up for election. Controlling any one of the three legs of the state lawmaking stool has major implications on the legislative process and possibly the 2020 redistricting. The next State Board of Education will be responsible for choosing the next state superintendent of public instruction, and will also likely be the group to make decisions on things like our state's new social studies standards and the direction of our assessment system. Finally, the ballot proposals, especially proposals 2 and 3, could arguably have a larger impact on state governance than any other election result, including governor. By impacting who can vote, how they can vote, and how district lines are drawn, these two issues could fundamentally change the power structure of state government for decades to come. Divination is a woolly discipline, so I hesitate when people ask me what I think is going to happen in the election, but I'll share one broad observation. Elections are decided by who shows up, and who shows up is typically determined by who's motivated. Will Democrats or women show up to vote for Gretchen Whitmer the same way young and African-American voters turned out for Barack Obama? Is the Me Too movement and the feeling of collective disenfranchisement among liberal and minority voters going to drive people to vote? Is the possibility of legalized marijuana going to get more people to the polls? We won't know the answers to these questions until after the election, but we can see some interesting trends coming out of the August primary that speak to voter motivation. This primary set a record for voter turnout, by a lot. Roughly 30% of eligible voters cast a ballot in this primary, 5% higher than 1982, the next closest year in recent history. Over 100,000 more people voted for Democrats than Republicans this August. Women did very well across the board in the primary election. In both the state House and state Senate primaries, women running against men won 60% of the time. And while we should all be hesitant to rely on polls to predict the future, so far, the polling numbers seem to be bearing these trends out going into the general election. But we will know for sure come November 6th. Remember, the polls are open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. If you're in line by 8 p.m., you can still vote even if it's after 8 p.m. by the time you get to the booth. Decisions are made by those who show up, so make sure you participate. Again, my name is Bob Kefchin, and I am MASSP's Director of Government Relations. If you have questions about any of the topics covered in this presentation, or about anything else, please feel free to contact me.